This is a meeting of the Shrewsbury Conservation Commission. As a preliminary matter, this is John Ostrowski, Chairman of the Conservation Commission. Please permit me to confirm that all members and support staff are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Martha Gatch.
Here.
Bob Jakes. Bob's raising his hand, I think. And Ken is not here at this point in time. We're expecting him. And Jason Port will not be at tonight's meeting. Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Brad Stone.
Here.
This open meeting of the Conservation Commission is being conducted remotely consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. The order, which you can find posted with agenda materials for this meeting, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment. For this meeting, the Conservation Commission is convening by telephone and video conference via Google Meet, as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. We are now turning to the first item on the agenda. Before we do so, permit me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. I, the chair, will call on each applicant to make their project presentation. After they conclude their presentation, the chair will go down the line of commission members first and then to staff members, inviting each by name to provide any comment or questions. After commission members and staff have spoken, the chair will afford public comment. The chair asks that members of the public who wish to speak to identify their names and addresses only. Upon completion of public comment, I will call upon the commission members to offer a motion and then for a second. Each vote taken on the motion will be conducted by roll call vote. Lastly, please remember to mute and unmute your phone by pressing *6 or mute your computer when you are not speaking so as not to trigger your camera feed or background noise. And that takes care of our intro. Is Ken here yet?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh,
Sorry.
there you are. Okay, Ken. Okay, let's go down the agenda. The first item is to review and approve minutes. And tonight we are not ready to approve minutes. So we'll move on to item 2, signing bills. And Brad, as usual, we'll probably have some to do and we'll sign them when we come to sign the other paperwork. Correct, Brad? Yep, he's shaking his head. And going down into our meetings and hearings, our first one is a continued public hearing regarding the notice of intent filed by the Lakewood Sigmund Commission to implement a long-term vegetation management plan at 144 Seoul Street, Newton Pond. And I see Peter Collins was here. Peter?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair.
Are you going to be presenting tonight?
Yeah, well, it's going to be quick. I'm going to ask for a continuance. Last night, the Boylston Concom continued their portion of this till April 26th was their next meeting. So I know that wanted to hold off and make sure that no curveballs were thrown, whatever orders of conditions that Boylston came up with.
Okay. Peter, our next meeting is April 20th.
I know. Yeah.
You'll be in the same situation next month with us if you haven't had your meeting with Boylston. Do you want to go out another month? Or we'll continue it to the 20th if anything changes.
Yeah, if something they have a emergency meeting or something. We're trying to get them to move as fast as possible, but
okay.
The 19th is Patriots Day, so that they're going to miss that date.
Okay. Well, why don't we do this then? I know they need to do a peer review, right? Isn't that one of the things they're going to do?
That's correct. That's really what's holding, what they're waiting for now.
Right, we don't want any surprises in their peer review to change anything we might be doing.
I don't
Okay.
anticipate anything, but who knows?
Yep. Okay, so why don't we continue it, Peter, to April 20th? And
Okay.
you can come on if you're not ready, just the same thing you're doing tonight, and we'll push
All
it
right.
out. Okay?
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, so this hearing is going to be continued until our next meeting, which is April 20th, 2021. All right, moving on to our next, let's open both of these hearings. They're both continued public hearings, and they're regarding the notice of intent filed by 62 Cherry Street LLC for the construction of a single-family home at 52 Cherry Street. And also there's another separate filing, which is a continued public hearing regarding the notice of intent filed by 62 Cherry Street LLC for the construction of a single-family home at 54 Cherry Street. And James Tatro, are you able to communicate?
I can hear you, and I hope you can hear me. Can you?
Yes, we can.
Okay, that's via the telephone, and I can see you on the screen. We're just having trouble with the computer sound, so we'll just do this with the screen and with the phone both, if we could.
Okay.
I'd like to, if I could, am I clicking on it here?
Present now?
Yeah.
You have to do it.
Oh, did it? Oh, do it. Sorry, I'm just trying to get the present now thing set up. Wanted to share the screen with the grading sheet G2 from the revised site plans. After the last meeting and pursuant to the discussion at that meeting, we made some changes to what is shown on both lots. And I just wanted to describe that quickly with the site plan in the background.
Okay.
So, just a second.
Site plan.
Yeah, there you go. Start. Share. Can you see the?
Yeah, it's coming up, James. Yep, it's up.
Go up just a little bit. Yeah. Okay, so in response to the discussion at the last meeting, we had previously shown, trying to drag the cursor all along the limit of work behind number 54. We had shown a split rail fence at the limit of work, and it was communicated to us pretty clearly that the commission would much prefer a line of boulders as that demarcation to try and discourage any future encroachment. So we replaced all of that line of split rail fence with boulders, and we actually extended it, which I think was also part of the commission's wish, extended it where I'm dragging the cursor now onto the back of number 52, where the work was closest to wetlands. So that was the single biggest change. We also, in response to the discussion at the meeting, what was brought up by Mr. Stone and maybe it was Mr. Truman also, we did an extra deep hole test in each of these locations where the proposed infiltration system is behind number 52 and where the proposed infiltration system is behind number 54. And in each of those cases, we ended up having to move the system just a little bit higher based upon the results there. They both had relatively, as Mr. Stone suggested, relatively high groundwater, 24, 25 inches to modeling, and they both had weeping at about 3.5 feet. So we revised both of the infiltration system designs just a little bit to account for that. Another change was that in response to a comment from Mr. Truman, I've got the cursor up in front of the house on number 52. We had shown grading, just extending a little bit onto the right of way, grading around the front of the septic system. And he said, you should take care of that solely on your own lot. And so we propose a low retaining wall, just 2 feet high here at the front of number 52 to address meeting breakout as required on the septic system. Trying to see if I left anything else out. The other item was that in response to the discussion about where we had proposed a catch basin in Cherry Street and about this location where I've got the circle and the cursor now. We took that off the plan in response to the discussion at the last meeting. So we made those changes again, removed split rail fence as the demarcation of limit of work in favor of boulders, added a wall on the front of 52, did an extra deep hole test behind each lot, and slightly revised the infiltration structure on both those lots. And those were the changes that we made in response to the last meeting. Obviously, we had made some others in response to previous discussion, but those were the last changes made to the plan.
Okay. Let's go to questions from the commission. Martha?
I'm all set, thank you.
Bob? Bob, you're on mute. Bob,
All right, how about now?
you're okay now.
Okay now?
Yep.
James, what was the minimum boulder size that you specified in this alignment?
Sure, Bob, on sheet G2, in the notes, we called it out as being that the line of boulders shall be 3 feet average diameter, spaced 6 feet on center.
Okay, thank you. No more questions.
Ken?
I'm all set.
Brad?
We may have just answered the one question I had, and that was in terms of the boulder spacing. So I didn't see a detail on that, but you said that's on the second sheet and note, James?
In fact, the sheet that's on the screen, the bottom note there is number 5 says, proposed line of boulders shall be 3 feet average diameter, spaced 6 feet on center.
And is there a symbol in the legend for the boulders?
Yes, there is. Oops. Or did I just do that with a note? Nope. I've given myself credit quickly. I thought I had put this in. Oh, I did. Okay. It's about the 4th or 5th line down on the key. Proposed line of boulders to discourage encroachment. It's right below the one that says 500-year flood, which is way on the back of the property.
Okay, so I guess my only follow-up question to that is where does that terminate in the westerly portion of the row? I guess it gets kind of busy with all the other items there.
Oh, sure.
Right over there. Okay.
Right. Yeah, right here, right by the outflow for the bigger storms from that infiltration system. That's right where that the work on number 52 is getting more than 15 feet away from the wetlands. Because we basically extended the boulder line all along where the work was just off of 15 feet from the wetlands, and then it's getting further out over here where I've got the cursor now, and we didn't continue there.
Okay, I'm all set, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. All
Mr.
right.
Chairman?
Yeah, go ahead.
James, this is kind of a nit, but just to avoid any confusion with the contractor, I think we should, instead of calling those boulders average 3 feet in diameter, we should put minimum 3 feet of diameter. We can deal with that in the approval.
Okay, sure. And we can rate that at the pre-construction meeting.
Yep.
That's it, Bob?
That's it.
Okay, let's go to the public with any questions or comments. Does anyone in the public wish to speak? Okay, hearing no one.
John, it's Kenny. I have one question.
Go ahead, Ken.
I just want to know the sequencing of when the boulders would be installed. Would they be installed at the beginning of the project instead of the end?
We're trying to it was going to be a little bit dependent upon when some of the junk was removed in order to allow access in to the area. I'm trying to get the cursors back there. In this area, there's a junk trailer, and this area there's a junk car, and what seemed the least vegetatively disturbing access to this point, to where the junk car is, was actually sort of due north. And so we wanted to make sure that was done first. So rather than put the boulders in, sweep them all aside and put them all back. So it's a little dependent upon the clearing of the junk, which we said in the sequence on one of the detail sheets, that after consultation with the wetland scientist, that it would either be done while ground is hard or likely in summertime when things are dry. That was his suggestion, after at least five consecutive dry days of no significant rainfall. And so I think the boulders are likely going to be a little later in the process, just because now we're not going to have hard ground anymore, and we're going to end up doing the junk removal probably sometime in the summer. And so the boulders are probably going to come later on in the process.
I just would hate to see it be forgotten and you'd have to come back to do this when everything was landscaped and cleaned up. So it should probably be done early on in the process.
Some of it actually can, you're right, some of it actually can definitely come early on in the process. For instance, right behind the house on number 54 in this area where I'm moving the cursor, to the side of that house over here where I'm moving the cursor, because there's no intention to go beyond that, to get to junk like there is in this area, and there is to go beyond over here, again, to get that car out of there. So definitely some of it can come in early in the process.
Okay.
Okay. All right. We went to the public and we didn't receive any feedback. And James, are you comfortable with closing the hearing tonight then?
I guess so, Mr. Chairman. I understand that one of your members is not here, but I hope you still get a good vote even without him.
Okay, so I take that's a yes?
That's a yes.
Okay. Anybody in the commission have any objections to closing the hearing tonight? Okay, I see heads shaking. So we will close the hearing, James. Both hearings are closed.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, members, and thank you, Brad.
Thank you.
All right, James. Okay, moving on to our next hearing. Our next three hearings are going to be continued. I will go through them individually. The first one is a continued public hearing regarding the notice of intent filed by Equestrian Building Company for driveway construction, utility connections, and drainage connections at 183 Spring Street. That will be continued until our next meeting, which is April 20th, 2021. The next hearing is a continued public hearing regarding the notice of intent filed by Equestrian Building Company for the construction of a single-family house, utility connections, and stormwater management systems at 185 Spring Street. That hearing will be continued until our next meeting, which is April 20th, 2021. The next
Mr. Chairman?
hearing, yes.
Yep. The next one, I did not get a response when I tried to reach out by email regarding the continuance. So I would suggest checking to see if anyone's here for that first.
Okay, all right, I'll do that. Do
Thank
we
you.
have anybody representing 23 Shirley Road here tonight? As Brad said, he tried to reach out to the people to see if they would be attending tonight's meeting. This hearing's been continued for a number of our meetings already. And I'm not hearing any response. So we will continue this one. I'll read it officially. This is a continued public hearing regarding the notice of intent filed by Asty Daces for the backyard hardscape and landscaping, including retaining wall, walkways, stairs, and planting at 23 Shirley Road. We will continue that hearing until our next meeting, which is April 20th, 2021. I believe we have the people here for the next one. This is a continued public hearing regarding the notice of intent filed by ME Realty LLC for the construction of a paved parking area, stormwater management facilities, retaining walls, and site grading at 5 and 9 Centec Boulevard. And Ken, you recused yourself on the last hearing. Will you be doing this, the same tonight?
Yes, I'll be recusing myself.
Okay. We had John Grenier as the applicant. I don't see John responding. All right, well, we'll go back to this one at the end of our meeting then. The next one is also a John Grenier project, so why don't we bypass that one? And Richard, are you here? Which one are you here for? 235 Main Street?
I'm here for 235 Main Street,
Yeah.
Chairman.
Are you going to be presenting tonight for that one, or is John?
As I understand it, there were a couple of things, if I could, as I understand it, there were a couple of things outstanding that Brad wanted to check.
Yeah.
And I believe Brad got a report this afternoon from a wetlands consultant relative to the issues that were outstanding. My purpose for being here tonight is just to kind of impress upon you how important it is for us to move this forward if we can, because we're running up against some other legal obstacles for the client. As you know, this is for a dental office to relocate from Shrewsbury Center.
Right.
And we're running against a time crunch because of the issues with the lease in the center of town. Obviously, the landlord, I believe, wants this dental office moved. So if there was any way we could close this hearing tonight, even if there was any minor conditions, we would ask you to do so. That's all.
Well, why don't we keep this open right now for tonight's meeting, and we only have a couple more to go. We'll be through them quickly and see if John shows up.
Sure, that'd be great.
Because they're really, the issues outstanding are really technical issues at this point. So hopefully John can address them. And
I'm going to try to reach him in the meantime. So.
Yeah, that sounds good. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Nice to see you all, members.
Same here. Okay, let's move on to our next hearing. And that is also a continued public hearing. And it's regarding the notice of intent filed by 7 Sherrill Drive Realty Trust to construct a single-family residential dwelling at 601 South Street. And we had Rashid and Joe. I see Joe is here. Joe, are you presenting tonight?
Yes, I am.
Okay, it's your show.
All right, let me see if I can follow the latest site plan. Can the commission see that plan?
Not yet.
I'm getting an error message on my end.
Last month it worked, I think, out for you, Joe.
You have it now?
I don't see it.
Hmm.
Well, if you're not able to pull it, let's, at this point
Yeah,
in the
sorry,
game.
I got an error message. Well, let me
Let's-
recap.
Well,
Mr. Chairman, if I may,
hang on, Joe. Let's get
Is-
Brad to pull it up if he can pull it.
is there a certain sheet number you'd like us to pull up, Joe?
Read the first sheet. Yep, that's the one. Thank you, I appreciate that. Since we met last, we have made quite a bit of headway with the project, both in regards to work with this board, but some other departments in town. I'll start with the more basic stuff. We filed a stormwater management permit. The DPW asked us to complete some testing closer to the infiltration units proposed for the front, the South Street side of the home. We did that. We adjusted the infiltration chambers accordingly. The easterly chamber, I think, raised 0.2 of a foot, a couple of inches. We also slid the chambers southerly towards South Street at the request of the DPW to maintain a 10-foot offset to the home. That information was revised, resubmitted, and the stormwater management permit has been issued by the DPW. At the request of the Board of Health, we relocated the septic system in the rear of the dwelling to keep the system, the leach trenches, outside the isolated vegetated wetlands. The current revision moves the trenches outside both the isolated vegetated, the IVW, and the buffer zone to the bordering vegetated wetlands to the east, the right-hand side of the page. That information was resubmitted to the Board of Health and a permit issued for the septic system. So at this point, the only work associated with the system is the over excavation and the grading on the downhill side to support that system. They did issue the permit with one contingency, that this board be satisfied with the work that's proposed. So that permit is linked to the outcome of this hearing. We updated the set of plans to include some construction details for the installation of the erosion control barrier that runs along the right-hand or easterly side and then across a portion of the back. I think Mr. Stone thought we were slightly lacking in some of the installation details, and that info has been added to the plans. And I'm sure you're all aware that we have also been issued a file number by DEP. And that is generally what we accomplished in the last month.
Okay. Let's go to questions from the commission. Martha?
I'm all set, thanks.
Bob?
I have no questions at this time.
Ken?
I'm all set.
Brad?
The only comment I have, at the last meeting, I had requested that straw wattles not be used, and it looks like one of the details was changed, but there's still one on there that shows straw wattles. So there's a little bit of a conflict there.
Oh, I apologize. I missed that. I must not have taken very good notes. The intention was to get in line with the commission. I apologize.
That's all I had, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Let's go to the public with any questions or comments. Is anyone out there in the public who would like to speak? All right, I don't hear anyone. So, Brad, are you comfortable with Joe revising the plan and just updating it with the hay bales in lieu of the wattles?
Yes.
Okay. Is everyone on the commission in agreement that we can close this hearing? Can you shake your head or say yes? Yep. Thumbs up. All right. So we will close the hearing, Joe. You're all set.
Great. Well, thank you very much.
Yep. Just revise that plan and get it to Brad with regards to the wattles. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Chairman, I think we have John on telephone.
Is he? Okay.
No, I actually, if everybody can hear me, I got it working.
We had a little technical difficulty.
Yeah,
Okay.
I brought my IT guy in with me.
I couldn't get it for our presentation either. I don't know. We fixed it now.
All right. Well, hold on one second, and
Sure.
I'm gonna have to. All right. I believe we read the notice on Centec Boulevard, and why don't we pick up on that one first?
Sure, that'd be great. Okay, at our last hearing, I know Brad needed some additional time to review the plans. I spoke to him earlier today. I believe he has reviewed the plans, but I can give a quick overview of the project just for everybody's full knowledge of what's going on. This lot is located on Centec Boulevard. It's right behind the gas station, which is on the corner of Route 20 and Centec Boulevard. So this is just to the south of that lot. It's about a 2-acre parcel that is proposed to be developed with a 12,600 square foot building with parking and some garage access at the rear portion of the site. There is a cut and fill associated with the site. The westerly or northwesterly portion will have some cut, and the southerly section of the parcel will be filled. As part of the submission, which went to both Planning Board and to the Conservation Commission, is the design for a retaining wall that will be along the south and easterly portion of the site. In order to attenuate the runoff from the increased impervious area, we have 2 subsurface recharge areas, one along the southwesterly portion, which that will be capturing strictly the roof runoff, and one on the southeasterly portion, which will be capturing the runoff from the parking lots. One addition that was made to ensure that we have good treatment of stormwater is we have deep sump catch basins going through a series of drain manholes, and then prior to discharging into the recharge system, we're installing a vortechnic type unit, which will ensure that we have additional pre-treatment before recharging into the subsurface recharge system. This property will be serviced by municipal sewer, water, so there's no septic system or anything like that associated with the development of the site. For erosion control, we will have silt fence and hay bales located primarily on the easterly and southerly portion of the site. We will have, as is typical, a mat of stone at the entranceway, and we will have stockpile areas so that we can contain any material that would be used after construction for, loaming and whatnot at the perimeter of the site. But that's a quick overview of the site. Again, I believe Brad did review the site plans, and if there's any other questions or comments, we'd like to try to address them for you.
Okay, let's go to the commission. Martha?
John, at the extreme southern portion of the site, there is a rather thick stone wall, and I know I brought up stone walls before, so please excuse me. And I'm hoping that your plans allow to keep that wall, because it's significantly different than a lot of the stone walls that we seem to have in this area. I think it might have some interest to the town.
It is. There are it's a large, wide stone boulder pile. You can come down to the existing conditions plan. Ooh, you went a little too far.
There it is.
And what she's talking about is there is a wide boulder wall that's located right along there. That is right along the area where we're going to be installing the our retaining wall for the entire site. So there will be a conflict with the proposed retaining wall and that existing wall. If there are stones that are over the property line, obviously we wouldn't be touching those, but there is going to be disturbance to that wall.
Well, thank you.
Bob?
Yes, John, I think I've expressed this to you before. My biggest concern with this project, because of the nature of the soils and the glacial tills in Route 20, is siltation during construction, especially since, as you stated, there's quite a bit of cuts and fills going on this property. I think it's absolutely critical that any precipitation and runoff during construction be contained on site and allowed to settle, and in fact even provide for some treatment if necessary prior to discharge off the site. And so could you kindly explain for the record how you plan to do that?
Yeah, let me get down to let me get to the grading of an erosion control plan. Bob, wait a second, let me get to the correct sheet. My mouse gets a little jumpy here. Here we go. Yeah, Bob, on the southerly side of the parcel, as they bring in fill, they're going to be constructing this wall. So this wall, the retaining wall, is going to act as a pseudo dam. We are proposing to take this area on the southerly side, which is the direction, obviously, that the flow goes right now. The higher elevation side would be on your left side of the sheet. The lower elevations on Tech Boulevard to your right. So we are going to have a basin constructed here, temporary during construction, and that would hold, I believe, through a 10-year storm. But that would obviously, if there's multiple rain events, they would have to pump that out and make sure it has enough capacity if there were back-to-back storms. But this is, if you can see, it's about almost, I'd say half the size of the building or close to it. So the footprint is about at least 5,000 square feet, and we have that to hold quite a large volume of water, so that during construction we can contain water on site.
And in the event that you do have those successive rain events, in which it is overtaxed and you have to pump it, where would you pump it to?
They would have to pump it into, they'd have to create another sump and pump it, and then maybe put some flocculants into it to try to drop everything out of it. But obviously they wouldn't be just dumping it right off the site. That would defeat the purpose. But if they can put flocculants in there to drop any fines out, and then maybe pump clean water out. But we'd be working on that on a case-by-case basis, but it wouldn't be directly pumped right out, especially if it's silt laden.
Well, I guess I'm a little concerned because you said they'd have to respond at the time, and I think that would be too late. So I would like you to develop a plan in the event that there are multiple rain events that's very specific as to where it would be pumped and what the nature of the polymers or flocculants that you'd be using to do that. And I'd be happy to move on from this, and we can condition an order of conditions subject to the submittal of that additional plan, if that's your wish.
Yeah, that would be fine. And we've dealt with Hydrogas Technologies. They have a lot of good products. I'd probably consult with them and have
that's
something
fine.
site specific for us.
I'm perfectly comfortable with all of that, provided that those measures are in place and are understood, because when these events happen, they happen quickly, and contractors have got to be ready.
Understood. I completely agree.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Ken?
He's recused.
Oh, that's right. Ken is recused on this one. Brad?
I'm all set.
Yeah, John, I'm just looking at your construction sequencing. I'm not sure if I'm on the most current plan, but on the construction sequencing, it's note 4. It says temporary basins shall be constructed during this process to ensure stormwater is controlled during construction. Yeah, if you can reference them to, like Bob said, to that more detailed, specific sequence.
Sure.
What you expect this temporary basin to be, and when you would implement it too in a storm event. We don't want to implement it when all the silt's running down the road.
Right. Then it's too late.
Yeah, but you did have some mention of it, at least under the construction sequencing, but it's just a brief passing mention.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Brad, did you all set, or?
I'm all set. Thank you.
All right. Does anyone in the public have any questions or comments on this hearing? All right. I don't hear anyone. Brad, are you comfortable with getting that sequencing for the temporary basins submitted separately, or would you want to keep this hearing open?
That's really up to the commission, but I think that that's something that our department can review, and even if that's part of the stormwater management permit application as well. There's a lot of things that tie into stormwater these days.
Okay.
So whether the commission asks for it or not, I'm pretty sure my department's going to be asking for the same and similar things.
That's good. All right. Is everyone in agreement on the commission that we can close this hearing tonight? Shake your head or say yes. See Martha shaking. Ken's
I'm good.
Okay, Bob. All right. John, we'll close the hearing.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your time.
Okay. Don't go far. You're on
No,
again.
I'm here.
Okay. We have another continued public meeting regarding the notice of intent filed by Leuven Realty LLC to construct a 4,080 square foot medical office building, paved parking area, stormwater management facilities, and site grading at 235 Main Street. John and Richard?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll let John go forward with the technical issues that you spoke of earlier.
Okay.
Yeah.
John, before you start,
Yeah, go ahead.
let's get Brad in on this. You know, he's done a little bit of looking, and he can tell us where some of the weaknesses lie. Brad?
Okay. Just if the commission recalls, I think the last time this was presented was back in January. One of the things that I wanted to see was the wetlands flagged on the site. I'm not sure if that's been done or not. I have been out to the site. I haven't seen any wetlands flags. The one area that I really want to see reflagged is towards the westerly side of the entrance driveway. I think the resource areas in terms of the pond and the stream that's on the easterly portion of the site, I don't see the need to reestablish those prior to construction. You know, what's on the plan looks pretty accurate, but the reason why I had the comment a couple months ago is the BMPs, the infiltration basin, the forebay, a lot of grading, that's right up to the wetland line in that area. And there's some things on the plan that are, don't give enough information in that particular spot. The existing contours beyond the wetlands. So I don't know if what's being proposed, if there's going to be a conflict there either. Without simply being able to evaluate the resources at that portion of the site, I can't make that determination. We did start in our office going over the stormwater management information as part of this application. I know the town engineers looked at it for the planning board review as well. And, we had some discussions as recently as this afternoon. We still have a lot of concerns with that. We think it's best that if we do meet with the design engineer at this point, and, we're ready to do that pretty soon. But, really what I wanted to see was the resource areas shown so that we can go out, confirm whether there's an issue there or not before we get too far into our review, because what happens is a lot of times if there's a disagreement with the existing site conditions, and then our efforts on reviewing all the fine details on the stormwater is kind of a waste of time. So what I was hoping for when we last met was a phone call that those flags are there, I can go look at it, and then we can start having those discussions. I don't think that's been done to date. Some of the other things out there, now that the snow's gone, and I've been out there recently, I question what's actually impervious, what isn't out there. Some of that info needs to be shown a lot more clearer in terms of what the existing conditions were. When I look at the H&H calculations and the plans with those, it looks like there's a larger area of impervious shown that I would be inclined to give credit for. So kind of clarifying that on a drawing to show where those are. Stormwater management policy in terms of the forebay, the infiltration basin, the location. DEP had some comments on their file issue sheet about it being too close to the wetland resource area. It's still less than the 50 feet that they had indicated. Neither of those two things, the forebay and the infiltration basin, meet those standards either as well, because they're much too shallow. The infiltration basin, half of that area is probably only a foot deep to 1.2 feet deep roughly. I mean, that stuff fails pretty quickly. It just simply doesn't work. When you look through their design manual, it wants a minimum of 3 to 6 feet for these things. My experience with a lot of these BMPs is they don't get maintained, and when you're starting off with something that's only a foot deep to a foot and change deep, then it's going to be prone to failure pretty quickly. One of the other things I had a question on was with respect to, as we brought up in other projects tonight, sequencing. I'm not sure what the plan is for the relocation of that piped stream. I couldn't find within the construction sequencing how that's going to be done. If the commission recalls, I think when this site was permitted in the past, I don't think that was part of the proposal at the time, although I couldn't confirm that because our files and archives at the moment. But the stream that's there right now is being relocated as part of this project. And there should be some kind of sequencing and protocol as to how that's going to be done, because you can't stop that pond from outletting. So I'd like a little bit more information on how that's going to be achieved as well, because that's, that is you're dealing with the resource area at that point. It doesn't have a buffer zone because it's piped. It's the water's going through the pipe at that point, but the water in there is still protected. We don't want to see anything happening upstream with the pond doing an impoundment, or some erosion or other issues in the stream that ultimately goes on the main street there. So there's a lot of things that I think we still need to talk about this. And and again, the reason why we haven't gotten too far along at this point was being able to see what's out there for an existing conditions, seeing what kind of feedback we got from in terms of response with DEP's comments and other things. I did get a number of things from Mr. Grenier. I don't know as though we have anything in writing on that, but there's still some work to be done here, I think.
All right.
That's it right now. Thanks, John.
Okay. John, do you want to respond to some of that before we go to other questions from the commission?
Yes. As far as the channel that is on the westerly portion of the site that discharges under Main Street, we did, beginning of last week, once the weather warmed up a little bit, we got rid of some of the snow. We had the wetland scientist go out there, and there were some signs of the old flagging out there. There were some stubs. It is a fairly well-defined channel, and he did some augering on both the easterly and westerly side of that. And everything was upland soils. There were no signs of that anything beyond that channel had turned wet since the last time that we had permitted this site. So he clarified that there are no other resource area. There is no areas. There are some areas that may or historically were inundated, maybe for a short period of time, but there is no area where it looks like there's anything that spills beyond the channel where it has changed the characteristics of the soils. I'd like to remind the commission that this is a redevelopment project. This did have an order of conditions for a previous project that was substantially larger and had more impervious area. It had a larger building associated with it. The scope of this project is significantly smaller building, less impervious area. We are treating the water or dealing with the water that comes through the site, through the pond, in pretty much the same exact manner as was proposed and approved previously, where we're installing a new drop inlet and outlet structure, and then routing the water through a new pipe that would discharge at the same exact point. I understand we have a protocol for installing the new drainage system for that, and making sure that there's no issues with having an issue with water draining out of the pond. There is quite a bit of capacity in that pond where the berm of it does rise up. So I can talk to the engineering department about that, about timing and protocols for that. In terms of, from everything that our wetland scientists looked at on site, there are no other resource areas. There are the banks of the two channels, one on the east side, one on the west side, and the pond in the back. So we're fairly confident about the resource areas out there. If Brad or anybody from the engineering department would like to have an additional site walk, we're fine to go out and look at that on site. In terms of the recharge system and the detention basin, the biggest issue that we've had historically with abutting property owners is they did not want the elevation of this building to tower over them. So in the design of this building, we were trying to be hypersensitive to the abutting residential neighbors, and we were trying to keep the elevations of the site down. And in order to do that, we've used swales and more country drainage type of ways to manage the runoff from the site, including some of the water quality swales. So it's been a balancing act between trying to make sure that we have the storage volume for water, trying to reduce the rate of runoff and treat that water, while at the same time trying to keep the building and the paved areas so that they are in keeping with the neighborhood and they're not towering over the neighborhood. So that was a big part of the design of how we graded it and tried to manage the stormwater on the site. So again, we can talk to the engineering department about making sure that if we can provide a little bit deeper depth of some of the swales and maybe a better protocol for maintenance of them so that they will function long term. Also, we're fine with doing that. The one thing I'd like to point out is our client, who he does have a dental office in town. He is leasing space right now. He's trying to coordinate the termination of his lease with the construction of a building and moving his family's business onto this site. So we're trying to help him move the process along. And obviously we'd like to work with the commission on trying to help him keep his business in town. We don't want him to have to go someplace else. With the previous owner of this property, he had issues with leaving his leased space and moving into a brand new building, and the timing didn't work out, and it ended up that he found other accommodations. So it is kind of the construction sequencing of getting him in there and getting him out of where he is fairly time sensitive. We're trying to be, obviously as accommodating as we can. We got a little held up with the weather and the snow last month, but to the extent that we can try to help him get through this process and make sure that all parties are confident that the design is good and that all our bases are covered. We'd like to work with the town as expeditiously as possible with the common interest of helping a business in town stay in town. So with that, I'd put it back to Richard, if you have anything else to add in.
John, Brad mentioned, if I could, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
John, Brad mentioned the flagging. Was the wetland flagging done that he requested?
I had the wetland scientists go out there beginning of last week. The question that, as I understood it, was, are there any other resource areas beyond the limits of that bank? When we went out, we saw signs of the old flags. There were the stubs of the old flags, but he was augering on either side of that channel. And again, it is fairly well defined. So he augured on either side of the drainage channel, but he didn't go and just throw up a new flag. It is well defined. He could probably reflag it or put those flags up in 15 minutes. But again, the channel is well defined and he augured on either side of it. So again, to go and throw a new flag up, we'd be out there for 15 minutes.
Well, I guess, Mr. Chairman, if I could, in all fairness to Brad, maybe we should have spent the 15 minutes.
Right.
The contours are such out there, though, if you walk that site, and I think Brad will agree, that the two channels out there are very well defined. I mean, they drop right off. And I understand what John is saying, and I certainly I'm disappointed to find that we didn't take the extra time to do extra flags, if that's what it takes. It sounds to me like, I will point out to the board respectfully, this site was permitted for a building almost twice the size several years ago. There was another permitting process for Shriver Home Care, as you will recall. So we've been through this process a number of times, and I understand that times change, and I understand that requirements change, and I understand stormwater regs are now in effect, and we anticipate that we will be able to deal with that. However, time is of the essence, and we are running into issues along those lines. So, to say the least, I'm disappointed in what I hear, and I can see it in your faces that you are too.
Richard, if everybody puts a big push in the next couple of weeks, so we're not in the same position next month, I think a lot of these things can go away. But we can't wait to, a week before or a few days before a meeting and then expect, everything to be rosy at the meeting.
I get it.
I think
I get I get it, John.
No, I know.
So
no.
Okay. I will push forward.
Okay, sounds good. Let's see if anyone on the commission has any questions while we're at it. Martha?
No, I'm all set. Thanks.
Bob?
No, I agree with you though, Mr. Chairman, and with Mr. Ricardo. Let's try to get people, I know this are crazy times, but let's try to get people together early next week, make sure we have a complete list of any deficiencies or new information we need, and let's get that information into Brad within a couple of weeks.
Yep.
And let's get this on our agenda next month.
Okay,
Thank
Bob.
you.
As far as can I ask a question about the impervious surface?
Sure, go ahead.
Brad, that's pretty straightforward out there. I mean, there's a lot of pavement out there, and just off of the pavement, I'm sure if you've been out there, you saw that. Obviously, what we're doing here is going to better the site. I mean, there's been a lot of trash dumping there. There's been, it's a horrible site, and the neighbors are anxious for us to move forward. And as John says, I will also point out, John says there's been a big push on the neighborhoods in the neighborhood, both the Gannons out front and a couple of folks up on Irita that have asked us to keep the property levels down. They didn't want us to build the site up with a lot of fill. So this was driven in a great part by a desire to hopefully satisfy the neighbors in terms of their viewpoints as to this as well. But they want, I mean, one of their biggest complaints is that this is becoming a trash dump, and it is, and hopefully we can move this forward. But as far as the impervious surface, Brad, are you looking for a plan that actually shows an outline of the pavement out there? Because
I can add to that, Richard. A number of years ago, it showed up as having much more pavement. We were out there a few weeks ago to confirm where the existing sewer and water service lines were.
Right.
And there's areas where when they tore the building down and they were, disposing of the building and everything else, there's areas that show that they have, it shows like right now that has soil on it, but it's actually soil that is on top of some of the old pavement. So there's areas that look like they're green, but once you scrape away some of the weeds and scrub brush, there's actually pavement below it. When it was the old dairy, the entire place was paved. So it's either broken up pavement, as you can see it kind of on the left-hand side. There's broken up pavement, but then there's pavement that goes out back towards kind of the pond and that back left side. And then on the right-hand side, there's pavement that shows up, but then there's topsoil or whatever soil and some of the fill material that's on top of some of the old pavement. So for all intents and purposes, even areas that show some of the scrub brush, there's pavement below it and it all just washes off and ends up down in those channels.
So I guess that brings me back to my question. What exactly are you looking for, Brad, in terms of the pavement?
I want to see in the plan what area that he's taking credit for as being impervious.
Okay.
I mean, I think you can. Did everybody see the image I had put up on the screen?
Yep.
Okay. I think by looking at that, think of our stormwater utility, for instance. I would think if somebody looked at this photo and we were charging them for that big green area in front of what you can see as pavement as impervious, we'd be hearing an argument in the other direction. So start by showing us, clearly what you're taking credit for as impervious, and then we can go from there.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, that works.
All right. All right, and Bob, you were all set with you, right? And we're on to Ken? Ken?
I'm all
All right.
All
Brad,
set.
anything else to say, Brad?
Yeah, just for clarification, with the wetland delineation, again, I don't see any need to reflag the pond or reflag that stream to the east. But we did talk about the other one, the westerly portion, and John mentioned having the wetland scientist put flags while he's out there. I mean, that's fine as well, as long as those are survey located after the fact. So the two options would be to put new ones up, resurvey them, or just resurvey, establish what was shown on the plan. So just let us know the approach you moved and the approach you used, and plan accordingly on that, please.
Okay.
Brad, did you have some concerns on the grading too, running off site onto the adjacent property line?
Well, as was mentioned, it's a pretty defined drop down there. So that's why I really needed to see where the wetland flags were on the plan in relation to this proposed activity, because as there is a defined drop, if those flags are up high and dry on top of what could be a very large bank there, then there's a potential issue with grading, or they may not be an issue. I don't know, but that's one of the reasons why I want to see the flags that are there, so I can see if the grading works. I can't tell you the number of projects we've seen where, because there's not enough details of existing topo beyond the property line or the wetland line or something like that, where we run into issues with construction. So it's important that we really have a good handle of these existing conditions before we get too far.
Okay. All right, let's see if there's anyone in the public out there who might have any questions or comments on this hearing tonight. Okay, I'm not hearing anyone, so John and Richard, I take it we will continue this?
I take it we don't have much choice.
Okay, I'll take that as a yes.
I will tell you that it's been a pleasure to see you all, and as difficult as it is to do some of these remote presentations because of technical difficulties. Thank you for listening to me, and we'll see you next month, but we'll try to get this thing
All right.
shortly.
Okay, so we will continue this public meeting until our next meeting, which is April 20th, 2021.
Okay. Thank you very much, everybody.
All right.
Thank you
Thanks,
very much.
John.
Good night.
Good night. Okay, moving on. We have a continued public hearing regarding the notice of intent filed by Robert and Maria DiVerti for the construction of an in-ground swimming pool at 465 Walnut Street. And I think Carl is there.
Correct, Mr. Chairman, can you hear me?
Yep.
Excellent. Good evening, Carl Holtzman, Quinn Engineering, here on behalf of Robert and Maria DiVerti. We were here before the commission last month. Property is located at 465 Walnut Street. They're looking to build a pool in their backyard. We were basically waiting on a DEP file number last month. We got that. Since that time, although not subject to stormwater standards under the regulations, the Wetland Protection Act regulations, we're like right at 5,000 square feet. So we submitted for a stormwater permit. DPW had a couple of comments. We've since submitted a new plan to them, resolved those comments. In summary, we added a stone trench around the perimeter of the patio to capture runoff. That runoff gets piped to a small underground recharge area. And Brad, do you have the plan there by chance?
The only plan I have is the one you presented last time on the drive. I don't have the one that shows the recharge portion that you
Do you mind if I show it real
added
quick?
to it. Yep.
You see that?
Yes.
Okay. So the pool is sort of in the middle of the screen. The recharge area is sort of to the right of the screen. It's a small square stone chamber underground, 60-something feet from the BVW. So that's the gist of the changes. DPW indicated they were okay with that. And so with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you guys might have.
Martha?
I am good, thank you.
Bob?
All set.
Ken?
All set.
Brad?
I'm all set.
Does anyone in the public have any questions or comments on this hearing? Okay, I'm not hearing any. Brad, I take it we don't have this revised plan at the moment?
No, we have it. I don't have it. For some reason, it wasn't on the drive.
Okay.
I have the one prior to that, but it shows the same thing other than the infiltration part.
Right, but we do have the current one.
It was submitted. Yes, it's
Okay.
on my desk.
Okay, sounds good. All right, there being no further questions or comments from the public or commission, we will close the hearing.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, Carl. Martha, can you take care of the new one?
Absolutely. Notice is hereby given in accordance with the provisions of General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, that the Town of Shrewsbury Department of Public Works, 100 Maple Avenue, Shrewsbury, has filed a request for an amended order of conditions for the installation of monitoring wells at 34 Ridgeland Road. A public hearing will be held on the above request at 7 p.m. on Tuesday evening, March 16, 2021.
All right, Lee, are you the presenter?
I am, yes, thank you. So Lee Koska here from Weston Sampson, representing the town of Shrewsbury. This is the second amendment to the initial order of conditions that was filed in the summer of 2019. We previously installed 4 monitoring wells in the vicinity of the former tank. And actually, let me share my screen here. Bear with me one moment. Okay. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Following the first round of monitoring well installation, we still have some residual impacts from the tank from a well that was located just to the west of MW5, as shown on this plan. The groundwater in that location met the applicable standards, but the soil continued to have some residual gasoline impacts. As a result, we need to advance one additional boring closer to the pond. Essentially, we're trying to get that as close to the pond as humanly possible, while still being at the top of the bank. There's a pretty significant drop-off once you get to the actual pond itself. So in addition to that monitoring well, we're looking to put in 3 additional wells just to fully bound the site in the direction of the pond. The data from these will be used in a risk assessment that will evaluate the current risk posed by the residual contamination and whether any additional remediation or excavation activities would be required at the site to achieve regulatory closure with Mass DEP. Overall, with these, there will be a limited amount of brush clearing just to be able to access the wells. But once we are able to achieve the overall regulatory closure, all these wells will be decommissioned and the site will be returned to its existing conditions before any of these activities occurred. I think that's it on my end. If there are any questions or additional information that the board would be interested in, just let me know.
All right, let's go to questions from the commission. Martha?
I'm all set.
Bob?
All set.
Ken?
All set.
Brad?
I'm all set.
Does anyone in the public have any questions or comments on this hearing? All right, hearing none, we'll close the hearing. You're all
Thank you very
set.
much, everyone.
You're welcome. Okay, that takes care of our meetings and hearings. And why don't we move on to discussing and signing orders of conditions? And well, there's no
Mr. Chairman,
applicability. Go ahead, Bob.
I would move that we issue an order of conditions to 62 Cherry Street LLC for the construction of a single-family home at 52 Cherry Street. The only added condition that we discussed was that the size of the boulders be described as minimum 3 feet
Do we have
in
a second?
diameter.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, and we'll do a roll call. Martha?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Ken?
Aye.
And John? Aye. Okay,
Mr.
Bob.
Chairman, I would move that we issue an order of conditions to 62 Cherry Street LLC for the construction of a single-family home at 54 Cherry Street with the same added condition as the previous one.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor by roll call. Martha?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Ken?
Aye.
And John? Aye.
Mr. Chairman, I further move that we issue a order of conditions to ME Realty LLC for the construction of paved parking areas, stormwater management facilities, retaining walls, and site grading at 5 and 9 Centec Boulevard, subject to the submittal and approval of a plan, a erosion control plan that would define actions to be taken in the event of major storm events.
Do we have a second?
Martha?
Waiting for a second. That's right, Ken's
Recused?
Yeah.
Okay. I will second that, but I would also like to have some discussion about that wall, because that stone wall is really bothering me. And I don't know that as a commission member we have any jurisdiction over it, but I would love to hear the commissioner's thoughts about how to engage in a discussion about whether to possibly preserve some part of the stone wall on the southern portion of the site.
All right. Well, Brad, I don't know if you can pull the plan up, but
I must admit, Mr. Chairman, and Martha, I must admit, Mr. Chairman and Martha, that I'm unfamiliar with the wall. What is unique about it, Martha?
As Mr. Grenier mentioned, it is a double stone wall, which means that there are large stones on either side of it. It's twice the width of a normal single line of rocks, and it has been filled in with smaller rocks, which indicates that adjacent lands were probably tilled agriculturally. So it is a sign of our former farming history. You do not see very many of this type of stone walls in this area. So it's a special part of Shrewsbury's history that I just hate to see razed.
Okay.
And I don't know the engineering plans and the design, but would certainly be willing to engage in further conversation with the powers that be that might have access to these. So I wanted to get that on the record.
Yeah. Brad, can you put the cursor over the wall? It's the scale's a little hard to see on my. Because John did say that the wall was going to interfere with the new wall, correct? Wasn't that his reason?
That's what he said. That wall sits at the top of a fairly significant slope, so it is already functioning as a retaining wall in some way, shape, or form. And I recognize that may not be structurally sufficient for the facility that they wish to install in here.
Yeah. Under the Wetlands Protection Act, Martha, I'm not sure if we really have any jurisdiction to.
It looks to me like they're taking it out in its entirety.
Yeah, it's gone. I wouldn't know if we would have any ability under what we're charged to do, Martha, with saving it. I hear you, but I wouldn't know.
The only
Brad,
thing I could suggest.
Go ahead, Bob.
Well, the only thing I could suggest is trying to reach out to the owner of the property or the developer, whoever's developing this for whichever use, and to try to, as a naturalist, try to talk to them about preserving this resource. And it would take some re-engineering, perhaps. But
Is that
I don't. I think.
Is that something, Bob? Do you think they could be relocated on the site? It takes a little extra effort.
I don't know. I'm thinking of moving the new retaining wall, 3 feet, so as not to away from that wall. I don't know what could happen, but if Martha clearly thinks it's worth preserving, so why not have a conversation?
All right. Well, we've got it's got to be done within the time constraints. We've closed the hearing, so.
Oh, yeah, I agree with you, John. I don't think it's jurisdictional to us. But,
yeah, I know.
Maybe someone with the historical commission in some official way could approach them or something. This is a matter of preserving history.
Is that something you could follow up on, Martha?
I would be happy to.
Yeah, if you could give it a go, and we have some time before we have to issue the order of conditions, and maybe something can be resolved here with regards to that.
I appreciate your thoughts. Thank you.
All right, so why don't we leave it at that? But we've got to take a vote now on whether we want to issue an order of conditions or deny it. So we've had a second, so let's go all in favor. Martha?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Ken? Oh, Ken's recused on this one. And John? Aye. So, why don't you see what you can do, Martha? And
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we issue an order of conditions to Levin Realty LLC for the construction of a medical office building. No, we're not. That's continued.
No, not that one.
I
601
withdraw
South.
that.
Yeah,
I move that we issue an order of conditions to 7 Sherrill Drive Realty Trust to construct a single-family residential dwelling at 601 South Street, subject to the exclusive use of hay bales and silt fence throughout the project.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Martha?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Ed?
Aye.
And John, aye.
Mr. Chairman, I further move that we issue an order of conditions to Robert and Maria DeVerde for the construction of an in-ground swimming pool at 465 Walnut Street.
Okay, any conditions, Bob, on that one? I don't think so.
No, I don't think so. I think,
No, that was clean. That was clean. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Martha?
Aye.
Bob?
aye.
Ken?
Aye.
And John, aye.
And finally, Mr. Chairman, I move we issue an order of conditions to the town of Shrewsbury for the installation of an additional monitoring wells at 34 Ridgeland Road.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Martha?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Ken?
Aye.
And John, aye. And that takes care of our orders of conditions. So let's go on to certificates of compliance. Brad?
We have 4 on the agenda. I recommend that the commission issue the one for 465 Walnut Street. That's for the old order on record for the house construction, so this order will supersede that. 314 Grafton Street. This one was recently permitted by the commission. I think during the pandemic. I think that was a remote one. But the applicants have indicated that they do not intend to do the work, so they want a certificate of compliance for it. Must be one that they've recorded prior to starting anything and now clearing the title. The one for 100 Floral Street, that one's very old and I'm familiar with that lot. I recommend the commission issue that one, as well as the 141 Fieldstone Drive.
Okay. We have to take a vote on these, right, Brad?
Yes.
All right, Bob, you want to make a motion?
Oh, well, okay. I move that we issue an order of conditions. I mean, a certificate of compliance to the following properties: 465 Walnut Street, 314 Grafton Street, 100 Floral Street, and 1 Fieldstone Drive.
We have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Martha?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Ken?
Aye.
And John, aye. And that takes us to the end of the agenda. Does anybody have anything they want to talk about tonight? I don't hear anybody. So
I want to know when we're going to be able to meet again.
I don't know. A couple of the town boards seem to be meeting in person. It'd be a lot easier.
I'm sick of not being able to see these plans.
Oh, absolutely. This is tough.
Mm.
Tough, not easy. I don't know. Brad, do you have any indication of us going back?
No, I haven't heard anything. I mean, I know the town hall is still closed to the public. I would think we'd have to open up in some capacity before we'll have meetings again in the building.
Yeah.
Well, for the record, I'm ready anytime. Being an old man, I have all my shots.
I've got my first one.
Oh, good.
Yeah. All right. Someone want to make a motion to adjourn?
So move.
We have a second?
Second.
Second.
All in favor? Martha?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Ken?
Aye.
And John, aye. All right, everybody. Thank you.
You guys.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.